Hey, I'm Morgan, and today I'm going to be doing the mid-year book freakout tag, which is my favorite fucking tag. I think I've done this every year since starting my booktube channel. I think this is the fourth one, the third or the fourth one. I can't remember at this point. And I just saw Mayana from MorgyyReads post her rendition of this year's tag, and she said this is one of her favorite tags that comes out because almost everyone does it every year, and it's like a cute little tradition we all have. And it reminded me like how much I love this tag and I love watching it. Before I jump into it though, I just wanted to make a quick little preface to say to check the description of this video where I'm going to be posting links to donation places, petitions you can sign, and videos you can watch to continue to support the Black Lives Matter movement. This is a movement, not a moment, and not a trending fad that's going to pass and we get to ignore. So check the description of this video and continue to watch videos and highlight and elevate the voices of Black creators in our community. They are just treasures that deserve to be treated as such. Now I'm going to get into this. Underneath all of those, I'll also have the link to the original mid-year book freakout tag video. Y'all know the drill. The first question is the best book you've read so far in 2020. I'm definitely going to give it to A Fortune Fury Disaster by Hanif Abdurraqib. This is a poetry collection from a Columbus boy, and his poems are absolutely stunning and beautiful and gripping, and it's stuck with me and resonated with me ever since. I've read a lot of poetry this year, which if you're not new to my channel, you might know that's like one of my favorite genres. One of my biggest things is I love poetry, and I love this collection. It talks about blackness and being a black man in Ohio and what that means, and Hanif talks about that a lot in his essays and poems in all of his works, but he definitely lets it shine in this, and he talks about grief and losing loved ones and what that means, and it's exceptional and beautiful, and it's one of the best poetry collections I've ever read in my entire life. Also, I meant to say that I don't include any rereads, so these are all like new books to this year. Question 2 is the best sequel I've read, the best sequel you've read in 2020. Have I read any sequels outside of rereads? Hold. I don't remember every book I've read this year. Forgive me. Nope. 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 Oh god, no. There it is. So the best sequel that I've read so far this year is definitely Come Tumbling Down by Seanan McGuire. I read this at the very beginning of the year. I think that even if I read a ton of sequels outside of rereads, I would still think this is one of the best sequels I've read so far this year, but it definitely stands that test because the only other sequel that I read this year that's new to me was The Merciless 2, and if you watched my April wrap-up, you know I fucking hated that book. This follows Jack and Jill once again, and you see them in the first book, the second book, and now the 5th installment in the series, and it's beautiful, and it talks more about Jack's OCD, and there's like a body switch trope in this that's really beautifully done, and I loved this because I love the Wayward Children series, but also as someone with obsessive compulsive disorder, seeing a queer girl with OCD is so nice and makes me feel very seen, and Jack especially, like her specific type of OCD is really striking to me and is something that I resonate with full-heartedly, and I loved this book. I finished it in like a day, and I just love it. I love it so much. Question 3 is a new release that you haven't gotten to yet but want to. I've been pretty good-ish about reading newer releases. Elizabeth Acevedo just put out a new book called Clap When You Land, and apparently that's queer, and I loved The Poet X. I read that earlier this year. Her Clap When You Land is phenomenal and features some sapphic vibes. A sapphic relationship is what I've heard, but I could be wrong. If I can't pick All Boys Aren't Blue because I'm currently reading it, then definitely Clap When You Land. I've heard that is stellar, and I'm really excited to get to it. Question 4 is your most anticipated release for the second half of the year, and I am so bad and right now I just genuinely do not know what's coming out the second half of the year. Let me just go to the godless wasteland that is Goodreads and just look at my anticipated 2020 shelf and see if I can find something. Most of the stuff that I was really anticipating has already come out. Danny Kane is putting out a new poetry collection called Flavortown, and my friend Gary is publishing it. I'm really excited about that one. It's a poetry collection. It's like a comedic poetry collection, and also my friend is publishing it. I'm really excited for that collection because I've read both, not both, but I read 2 of Danny Kane's books and have thoroughly enjoyed them, and I love supporting my friends. That's out. Is this one out? Is this out? Oh yeah, that came out in March. Is this one out? That came out in April. Yeah, everyone, I really put Infinity Sun on my most anticipated releases of the year shelf on Goodreads. I'm wearing my clown shoes. Ooh, when's this come out? Okay, so Sandhya Menon is putting out 10 Things I Hate About Pinky, and the cover is super fucking cute. I'm really excited about that one. Rory Power is coming out with a new book called Burn Our Bodies Down. That comes out in July. I don't really have anything in this shelf on Goodreads that surpasses the month of July. I am notoriously awful about not knowing about a book until like it's been out for 6 months. I don't know what it is. I really try to be in the know and in the loop every year. Every January I'm like, let me look up everything that's coming out this year, and then I just lose it. Hello? When does Cemetery Boys come out? Because I am very excited about Cemetery Boys, but I don't want to be dumb and it be out for 8 months. Oh! Cemetery Boys comes out in September. That is most certainly my most anticipated release for the second half of the year. It's got a trans boy and a ghost and someone coming back from the dead, I think. And there's a love story and I'm into it. Number 5 is Biggest Disappointment, and can I just not name a book? Because it just says Biggest Disappointment. It doesn't say Biggest Book Disappointment. J.K. Rowling is just a constant fucking disappointment. Like, someone who built this world around like anyone being welcome to this school, having just this like fucking run-of-the-mill kid who had the shit kicked out of him all the time and was being like living in an abusive environment, finding a place that felt true to him and like feeling validated and feeling welcome and at home for the first time in his entire life. For someone to create something like that only to tell an entire group of people that they aren't valid and they aren't welcome and they cause trauma and they don't exist. I hate to say disappointed but not surprised at J.K. Rowling's behavior, but honestly, like, it's heartbreaking, but it's not surprising because she's pulled this shit indefinitely. And I could say a lot, and I didn't want to like really weigh in on this because I am not trans. I am gender non-conforming and I am using she they pronouns. However, I can't really speak. That's the first time I've ever said that on my YouTube channel. I won't cry. I can't weigh in on the heartbreak that the trans community is feeling because of J.K. Rowling. I can only speak as someone who walks around with a Harry Potter sleeve and who doesn't like to be perceived as a woman sometimes when I leave the house, and is gender fluid and gender non-conforming. I don't know which term really works for me yet. It's still something that I'm like learning about myself and working through. However, to see her say things like that has been the biggest fucking disappointment of this year. It's heart-wrenching and it sucks, and I didn't want my coming out to be like this, but what up? Biggest surprise of the year. When the mid-year book freakout tag turns into an unhaul video. Biggest surprise of the year in terms of like the way that I have always perceived this was a book that I had like moderate to low expectations for, but then it like blew me out of the water. I really haven't gone in any books expecting to dislike them this year, but one that comes to mind is Eldorado Freddy's by Danny Kane. I thought this was just gonna be like a fun little poetry collection, and I gave it 5 stars. It was funny, it was really cool, it had like really fun photography in it, and it's all centered around like fast food. Danny Kane writes a lot of poetry about food. Like I said, his next book's called Flavor Town, and it's all about like a post-apocalyptic world centered around Guy Fieri, and it's gonna be like a concept poetry collection that kind of tells a linear story, but not really. And this kind of does the same thing where he's reviewing fast food chains in poetry format, but then it turns into him like becoming a father for the first time, and about his marriage and his life, and it just took a turn that I wasn't expecting, and it blew me away, and I really liked it, and it really surprised me. And yeah, I highly recommend Eldorado Freddy's and any book by Danny Kane. So far, I've only read 2. The next one is favorite new author, whether it be debut or new to you. I'm gonna give both. This is the first Hanif Abdurraqib that I've read. I own another one of his books, and I have another one of his poetry collections that I'm about to jump into. However, this is the first one that I've actually read. I've watched his slam pieces before, but I've never read his poetry, and I haven't read They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us yet. So this is the first one that I've read, and I will read literally everything. Yeah, honk if you love Hanif Abdurraqib, am I right? They're not gonna honk again. Book, Go Ahead in the Rain. What the fuck is happening outside? But to talk about new to you authors, I'm definitely gonna mention Leah Johnson with You Should See Me in a Crown. I just finished this a couple days. Shut up! I just finished You Should See Me in a Crown like 2 or 3 days ago, and I really enjoyed it. This features a black queer girl, and she is so cool. I loved this book. I loved Leah Johnson's writing style. It felt so authentic, and it didn't read too old for YA or too juvenile for YA. It was just like that perfect sweet spot of a YA contemporary story, and it was like the tropiest, like cliche rom-com, but it featured a black queer protagonist, and like that's what's needed. I will never get over tropey sweet books the minute they're given to a marginalized group. Like, I do not give a shit about reading jars of mayonnaise fake dating again, but if you make it 2 people of color that are queer fake dating or falling in love with each other, I'm into it. I want that shit, and Leah Johnson gave me that shit, and I can't wait to read everything that she writes from here on out. I'm a mess. Number 8 is newest fictional crush. I have only been reading young adult, really. I haven't read many adult books this year. I've read 1, and it fucking ruined my life. We'll get to that. You want to guess? Venture a guess as to what book I read that ruined my life. However, I don't really want to say that I have a crush on any fictional people because I've been reading a lot of YA and they all take place in high school, and that feels wrong. However, Takumi and also Alice from Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn, cuties. I haven't become a bitch for any new characters, you know what I mean? Like, I am quite literally dick whipped by Gansey. Gansey is that boy that would be like, hey, you up? And I'm like, yup, on my way to your house. For nothing. I would like go to 7-Eleven and get him a Slurpee just cause. I am a simp for Gansey. I don't have any fictional crushes like that as of late. I haven't read any books where I'm like, ooh, this character is the love of my life. I haven't had it in a very long time, and I'm hoping for it. I want a new character to fall in love with so I could stop simping Richard Campbell Gansey III, please, end this suffering. Number 9 is newest favorite character, and I'm definitely gonna pick Chris from We Sold Our Souls by Grady Hendrix. Just like, is such a badass and is so cool, and this book was just really great. This is also one of my favorite books that I've read so far this year. Chris is really dope, and she's a really awesome guitar player and just claws her way out of this like curse basically to find her way back to the music and take down this evil that has been plaguing her and the rest of her bandmates, and it's just, I love Chris. She's awesome. Number 10 is a book that made me cry. I banished it to this shelf. It doesn't deserve to be on my filming shelf. I'll be right back. So I read A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara, and I was like, you know, catharsis. Full disclosure and full transparency, I started this book back in December and I didn't finish it until May. So I'm a very empathetic person, and I develop attachment to people and even fictional characters very quickly. I developed a huge bond to Jude, and I know that's like the intention of the book, is to create these emotional feelings between you and the main character Jude, and then you get to watch him be put through some of the worst trauma that any person could ever go through, and it's awful and uncomfortable, and I got to the point where I could not read more than like 50 pages of this book each time I sat down with it, because it was emotionally impacting me to the point where if I read this book it would ruin my entire day. And I got like 400 pages in and I was like, well, I can't turn back now. When I finished this book, I had 177 pages left, and I was like, okay, so I could break this up into fucking like 3 different days, or I could just fucking hunker down, have the audiobook, and listen to the entire thing and finish the last 177 pages in a day. And that's what I did. I committed to it, and it quite literally broke me in every way that a person can be broken. I took a little clip of me reading it. I was gonna film myself reading the last like 100 pages, and then something very specifically triggering to me happened, and I didn't know this was like a trigger that I had to look out for. And I didn't know that it was a thing for this book, because I went into this book and everything I've seen was like trigger warning for everything, and like the triggers that I've seen are things that I can read about and that like are trauma that I've dealt with but I can read about now and be fine with. But there's one that is really, really hard for me, and that's car accidents, people dying in car accidents. I can't read about people being in car accidents. I can't read really descriptive things about mangled cars and people being hurt in car accidents. I can't do it. I don't drive. Here's oversharing on MorgyyReads, because I always overshare on the internet. We're at that point now, you and I. That happened, and it really hurt, and I was filming like a reaction clip, you know, to like show like, oh, A Little Life made me feel this way. And once I started recording is when that moment was happening, like when that specifically triggering event started happening, and I was like, I can't fucking do this, and I turned the camera off. This book just fucked me. Like, this book really hurt to read, and the last like 100 pages are the worst of it. And that's saying something, because this entire book is torture porn. That's the most I've cried reading a book in my entire life, I would have to say, and I couldn't stop sobbing, and they were like heaving ugly, like could not breathe, inconsolable tears. It was something. Like, Ian could vouch that it was something. I could talk all about it. Like, I cried for hours. I couldn't breathe. My eyes were burning. Number 11, to bring it around, is a book that made me happy, and I've already mentioned this book a little bit, and that's Let's Talk About Love by Claire Kahn. I was gonna put You Should See Me in a Crown, but I was like, let's talk about some more black queer excellence in this tag, because I've been reading a ton of black written books and books with black characters this year, and I'm super happy about it. and I loved Let's Talk About Love. This features Alice, and she is a bi-romantic asexual girl. The book starts on a pretty sour note of her being broken up with by her current girlfriend for being asexual, and that there is some ace phobia in there, so if you are impacted by ace phobia or that is something that is harmful for you to read, know that going in. However, like, the rest of the book is so sweet and wholesome, and I love Alice and Takumi. I just, ooh! It's a really cute book. It made me like squeal and just like grin from ear to ear the entire time. I loved it. It was just great. It was a breath of fresh air. It was wonderful. I can't wait to talk about it because I just finished it the other day. Number 12 is the most beautiful book you've bought or received so far this year. When I was quarantining, the Book Loft did a mystery box option, and I ordered the mystery box and I asked for horror books, and one of the books they sent me is The Faceless Old Woman Who Secretly Lives in Your Home by Joseph Fink and Jeffrey Cranor, which is a Welcome to Night Vale novel, and I really love this cover. I think it is so beautiful. I love this minimalistic art design. I just think it's really neat. I haven't bought it yet, but the All Boys Aren't Blue cover is absolutely stunning. It's on back order at the Book Loft right now. I'm listening to it on audiobook, but I already know I'm going to buy it. So once I buy it, that will be the most beautiful book that I've bought this year. Look at it. Look at it. The last question, question number 13, is what books do you need to read by the end of the year? Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. I'm really looking forward to. I really want to read They Can't Kill Us Until They Kill Us by Hanif Abdurraqib. There's so many. I want to read Sandia Menon's new book, and I also want to read There's Something About Sweetie because I haven't read that. I really need to read Claire Kahn's new book, or newer book, If It Makes You Happy. I just have so many books that I want and need to get to by the end of the year, and I just want to get to fucking all of them. I'm just having such a great time reading what I want to read, and what I really want to read is just about like queer people of color. I've been slacking in like diversifying my books as far as identity in queerness, as well as in diversity of like nationality and race, and I'm in a constant state of bettering myself and diversifying my reading, and that's something that I want to just continue to do moving forward throughout the rest of the year and throughout the remainder of the time that I spend reading. If you did this tag, please tell me so I can go and watch yours. Y'all know I love talking to you in the comments. It's quite literally the #1 favorite thing about booktube to me, is leaving comments on my friends' videos and receiving comments from you guys. If you want to see more of my content and more of my mug, you are more than welcome to subscribe. I'm trying to get back to uploading every Monday and Friday. And yeah, my name is Morgan. This is MorgyyReads. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and happy reading. Okay, bye!